Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quentin Q. Crisco, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce, bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
Welcome back to another episode of Bears on Tap. I am joined by Ron Luce and our recurring guests in these preview shows, Brendan Shagru. How are you gentlemen doing tonight, starting with Brendan?
I'm doing well, man. This is so exciting. I mean, we're talking about a Bears team that's 7-3. We have relevant football to discuss. I haven't seen as many mock drafts hit my timeline as much, except maybe for Jacob Infante because he's kind of a sicko. But like, it's so great to be able to just discuss playoff scenarios and a winning team for once. So yeah, even though the days are getting shorter, getting colder, I'd say it's just never been brighter for a Bears fan in quite a long time. So I feel good. How about you guys?
Gentlemen, I'm doing well. I just shared today's preview because we have an AFC North opponent on the docket. The Bears own the North and the NFC and the AFC, and I'm convinced otherwise. And it's going to be a thing of beauty because, like you said, Brendan, this is a team that we're finally excited to like. The last time the Bears had their 7th win of the season this late in the year was like 2012 was the last time they had it sooner. It's been a long time since the Bears have been this good. And I think this Ben Johnson iteration especially is appreciated by Bears fans because even when shit hits the fan, which Bears fans got so used to in games, that things would just go awry and you're like, this is how it ends. They know how to push through adversity and find wins. And that's why I think this team's even more fun. But it's good to see you, gentlemen. It's again, I love Sundays, I love Tuesdays, and I love Wednesdays, and that's when we're on Bears on Tap of the Mic.
So to put this into context, like the Bears to be this late in the season in first place is I started doing this show in December 2021. I've never seen it as a podcast co-host. I've never really seen the Bears outside of like last place in the division this late in the season. So it's refreshing. It's new. It's a little different for me for something to talk about here because I'm just used to getting to draft talk by now. Like you said, Brendan, like you got to there. There's not a lot of mock draft talk. It's really nice, but it feels a little weird to me at the same time because like part of my lizard brain is going back to like, what about the draft? Right. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter right now. Bears are winning.
Q, I gotta ask you, are you going to be fully prepared for draft season because of how good the Bears have been?
I don't think so, frankly. I mean, I might just focus on O-line because I don't know that I'll have time to do like between like my day job becoming more like time intensive this year and the Bears actually being good, so I can't get out ahead of it as much. I don't know if I will be fully prepared for draft season, but I'll try.
I didn't mean to stir the crash out, Q. I had to ask. I had to ask because I know where the passion lies, and I'm kind of there with you, man. I mean, we've been around on Tap Sports since been around since the days of Matt Nagy when this team was still kind of playoff relevant, even if it wasn't super relevant. This is a whole nother beast, and I haven't been used to being a part of something like that either, my friend. So I'm right there with you. I understand it's the narrative. It's nice to go see like the Bears have a football game to win this weekend on X, and not the Bears have X% chance of landing the number 1 overall pick if this and this happens. It's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, like usually around this time, people are checking Tankathon, and instead we're checking playoff predictors and simulators and things like that. It's crazy. I'm with you guys. I started covering the Bears in 2019, literally the spring of 2019. So vibes were high. Everybody was excited. And the best I got was a 2020 season where half the people didn't even want the Bears to make the playoffs because it meant another year of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. So even when there was good things happening, half the fan base was like, yeah, we don't want that. This is BS. So it is it is great to everything's better when the Bears are good. I'll just say this. Some people think that the media gets off when Bears are bad. People aren't complaining. That is not true at all. People are so much more willing to engage in content when it comes to a good football team. And that's what we got. And that benefits all of us.
Brendan, you brought up that 2020 season, and I feel a sense of PTSD because that was a season that in hindsight, I wish we appreciated more as Bears fans, but there was so much more over the pace Nagy experiment, which is crazy to think after 2018, right? And here we are. Yeah. What a turn of events.
What a time to be alive. But gentlemen, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into town. And that means the bad man himself, Aaron Rodgers, will at the very least be at Soldier Field, the stadium that he owns, self-proclaimed, for the franchise self-proclaimed owns. How do you gentlemen feel about Aaron Rodgers?
I'll start. I'll just say this. I don't hate him nearly as much as I used to. I know a lot of Bears fans still love seeing him get his ass kicked and just wish for nothing but bad things for him. As soon as he left the Packers, I kind of was like, you know what? It'd be kind of fun to see him succeed again, because then it would just put the Packers in their place a little bit. I hate the organization more than I do the player, but this does bring back old memories. And I know that he is pushing so hard to play this game. He's talked about it in the offseason, how much that the Bears games mean to him. He gets off on this when it comes to pissing off the fans and saying he owns you, and he just loves being the villain. Look, he's clearly not the same Aaron Rodgers. We all see that in the way he plays. Reminds me a lot of 45-year-old Tom Brady, where he's just standing in the pocket and he's delivering the ball within 1.2 seconds. But he can still make those throws, man. He's still dangerous. He knows how to read defenses. He can still just carve you up if you're not on your P's and Q's. And I'm always worried when he comes to Soldier Field, because we've seen it all. So even though he's brittle, even though he's broken, even though he's old, you still got to be afraid of the boogeyman.
Ron, you got any thoughts on Aaron Rodgers going into this game?
It's funny. I think Brendan and I have the same feeling, but maybe just for different reasons. Because I'm in the same bucket, Brendan. I didn't hate him as much when he left Green Bay. I think it was because he was the boogeyman for Green Bay. If he was the boogeyman for the Minnesota Vikings, I don't think I care as much. It's just because it's Green Bay. And it just gives us a franchise that already has a stink in the minds of Bears fans, just even more just stinky cheese vibes than before. But now that he's gone, it's you just appreciate, he was a great player. And it just sucked that he lived on getting off on beating up on Chicago Bears fans. You almost wish he played in the NFC South and beat up on New Orleans Saints fans or something instead, right? You wish he did it for any other fan base, because from the outside looking in, you would enjoy it as an NFL football fan. But because the Bears were on the other side of it, it was never fun. I hope he's there. I hope he gets to see it one more time. But I really am going to take it a step further and hope he just doesn't play. Just take the week off, big dog. You're leaving on top. Just come get your farewell tour and just get booed the whole game and giggle about it on the sideline, and actually be ready to go try and win your division, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are leading the AFC North. That's how I feel. Let your boys take it on the chin. Let us get some more confidence. It's not against you. You just happen to be there. Come just be a fan for the day. Just watch the football game. That's all I want to see.
And just so we're all on the same page, any listeners, Rodgers did have a partial fracture, I guess, of his left hand, left forearm. What it was something along those lines.
His wrist or something.
Wrist.
I think it's his wrist. Yeah,
his wrist.
Yeah.
So there is serious doubt whether he can play this game. All the reports are saying that he is pushing hard to play this game.
Of course he is,
because, like you guys said, he cares a lot about this. He wants to play against the Bears. And frankly, there's some people out there saying, when I'm listening to some podcasts today previewing the week, and they're like, people out there saying they actually might like Mason Rudolph better running this offense. I have to hard disagree with that. Aaron Rodgers has 20 touchdowns and 7 interceptions on the season. He might not be the same Aaron Rodgers, but I still think he's operating at a higher level than Mason Rudolph does. And especially when you're talking about the game against the Bears, which he is definitely getting up for. I mean, this man had the audacity to scream at Bears fans in the end zone, "I own you." Like that, he cares a lot about this, and I care about it. I want to see him against the Bears. I want to see the Bears beat him. I want to see the Bears put him in the dirt, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I want to see the Brett Favre moment in Minnesota at University of Minnesota, getting taken down on frozen turf and ending his career. I never want to hope for injury, but like this is as close as you get to that in my mind, because I can't stand this guy. And to your guys' point a little bit, like sure, you kind of like seeing him leave Green Bay and have success is also kind of cool, because like I want to see Packers fans go through that as well, but at the end of the day, I just want the Bears to end Rodgers' career against them on a high note and have the opportunity to do that. Like I want to see that crescendo put on his career. I still remember Brett Favre's final game against the Bears. I'll never forget it. I want that type of thing with Aaron Rodgers too, just for the finality of it.
Yeah, we've clearly lost the war. Okay, we're not gonna paint a picture like the war has been. There's still some pockets being fought here, but like one last sucker punch and just leaving on that lasting thought. Even though we clearly know that he's like 25-6 in his career, and I'll say this quickly. Yeah, it is. I'll say this quickly. I respect Rodgers for just how much he gets out of this rivalry, because as much as I hate it, that's what sports are all about. You love guys that you can that lean into being the heel, and that you can hate, and that also just, can hate back and just be that true villain of sports. And that's who he is. And, I think when we get older, and Ron, you mentioned it, well, both you guys did, like kind of appreciating the greatness and all that. I think once he retires, we are going to just appreciate the quarterback he is, but also appreciate in a way how much at the very least he leaned into the Bears-Packers rivalry, because it makes sports great.
I'll be sorry to see him go, but I will love to watch him leave.
If Aaron Rodgers didn't lean into the rivalry, it's hard to say there's even a rivalry, like with the way that it's gone the last decade plus. If Aaron Rodgers was a nice, likable guy through all that, it'd be really hard to sit here and be like, I hate the Packers. So it's just like that, they're beating us with a smile on their face and they're just like as friendly as ever. Like I'm glad he was a heel that whole time, because it gave me something to hate.
It gave the rivalry life.
Yeah. For all that, there could be, despite all the Bears losing. But I think, and I hope, we're at the end of that. And, I said this a few years ago. I even wrote a whole article about it, and it made it like now, if I look back on that article, I'm like, oh, how wrong was I? But I think there's reason to believe that the Bears have turned that tide with the Packers at this point with Caleb Williams. We'll see in a few weeks. But when we're looking at the Steelers roster, is there anything that stands out with you guys? And I'll throw that one to Brendan first.
Well, I'll start with offense. I just look at their three-headed monster at tight end. It scares me. It's kind of unfair. I mean, Jonnu Smith. First off, like when you look statistically, all these guys aren't maybe necessarily blowing you away statistically, because there's a lot of mouths to feed on that. But I just think that the combination of Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, I almost said Darnell, right? It's just scary for opposing defenses. Yeah, right. Yeah, seriously. Could probably move the same too. No, it scares me. I think there's some potential big mismatches. I'm sure we'll get into that. That's really been the focal point of their offense. I know DK Metcalf is their wide receiver one, but after that, there really isn't much behind him at the receiver position. So the offense kind of funnels through those quick passes, nothing too crazy downfield. And you have to just be able to, try and slow them down with these big bodies. I think it's going to be a challenge for the Bears linebackers, especially if TJ Edwards cannot go again. We've kind of seen them struggle in that department. I think TJ Hawkinson should have had a much bigger day on Sunday against that group if he hadn't dropped so many passes. And I just think there's opportunities for mismatches there. So offensively, that stands out to me. And then defensively, I think we all see just an aging secondary that can't keep up anymore. I believe Darius Slay is going to be back this week. So in theory, it should be a boom for the Steelers defense on paper, but I just wonder how much you can exploit that with a relatively young skill position group that also has their own issues that we have to get over. But I see opportunity on defense and I see some worry on offense because I'm just wondering if the Bears have the horses to stop them.
Ron, any thoughts about this roster?
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Bears mirror themselves offensively more than people realize. It's just a different flavor. Like what I mean by that, like they're the heavier, like they use the whole milk, not the 2% or the fat-free milk, right? Like they're big at tight end, but they use 3 deep. They have one elite playmaker and a couple other guys. I think the Bears are smaller in that category and a little more spread out. But it's kind of the same vibe. It's 5 weapons at the tight end and receiver position, maybe 6 even, that they feel very comfortable using with kind of a 2 running back look with one that's maybe not as great as the other. Like the difference is Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is the younger version of Aaron Rodgers. These are very like kind of oddly similar offenses in some ways, but I think they're just run completely differently. I would love to see what Ben Johnson would do with this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I digress from my nerdy football hopefuls and fantasies. I think they're still talented enough offensively that they can give you fits, especially if they can find the best mismatches, right? We already know about TJ Edwards has missed so much time. If a linebacker has to match up on a tight end and it's not Edmonds and it's Sewell, that's an exploitation opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers. DK Metcalf could certainly still be that against the Bears secondary, given the state of it right now. There were plenty of mismatches to happen on offense. And then defense, I look at this defense and I just go, this is the weirdest defense of all time. Have you guys seen the TikTok video? It's from like the ads when they were doing the legends, when like Dan Marino and Jerry Rice and them are coming out like in football uniforms at their current age. That's what this defense feels like. Like you guys were all really good players at some point in your career or still are. Obviously, players like TJ Watt are still elite. You can make the argument that Hayward's the same way, even though he's been around forever. That's kind of how the rest of their team feels when you really look at it. Queen is still an effective player and not completely, quote unquote, old school veteran, but it's kind of the same vibe. I think Ben Johnson also wants this one because Ben Johnson gets up for coach via coach rivalries. And I think he looks at Mike Tomlin and wants to beat that guy too. So this one's a good one for the Bears, and it's at home. I think Ben Johnson gets off playing in front of the Bears fans because they're all just as sicko. We're all just as sicko as Ben Johnson is. It's a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, man, when I look at this offense or this roster in general, I love it. I just love what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. Like they don't actually like they're it's a lot better in theory than in actuality or in reality. But like Darnell Washington with Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, that is just as smash mouth as you can get in theory for a bait. I mean, this is their off. Like you look at their depth chart, they only run 2 receivers. Their depth chart, their base is 12 personnel. Jaylen Warren, he might not play this week. It seems like it's up in the air, but I love Jaylen Warren as a running back. He reminds me a ton of Tariq Cohen, maybe a little less juice, but like just as much like jitterbug kind of vibes and like how on earth did he do that kind of vibes. And then when I look at this O-line, I'm like, man, it's just talent. Like they haven't figured it out, but as from a pure physical talent standpoint, this O-line is right there with anyone in the NFL. Like I said, figuring it out and pure talent are 2 different things. Like Zach Frazier is the only one who I feel like has fully figured it out on their O-line. But if you're an O-line coach and you look at these players just like from an eval standpoint, you're like, yeah, let me work with that guy. Every one of them. Like they're the guys that you want to work with. And then defensively, I've been jealous of their defensive line pretty much as long as I've been alive. Like this thing runs 5 deep. Derek Harmon was one of my 6 deep, really, because you got Nick Herbig sitting behind Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt at edge. And Derek Harmon was one of my favorite players in the draft last year. Keanu Benton was one of my favorite players in the draft a few years ago. I think he's a super underrated player who doesn't really get the respect he deserves from a just physical wear you down standpoint. And then, Ron, like you said, you got Watt and Hayward, guys who are just still doing it. And Ramsey made the move to free safety. I think Ramsey's probably pretty good at free safety from everything I've heard and looked into it. I do think he is a really strong free safety back there. And Jabril Peppers is your dime back. That's fun. Kyle Duggar is your strong safety. Again, his number's not great here. I don't care. Kyle Duggar is fun, man. You want a safety who plays downhill and just attacks. Kyle Duggar is an animal. Basically, I look at this roster and I go, this team's going to test any other team's toughness any given Sunday. They're gonna physical you to death and play balls to the wall, and it's going to be a challenge for the Bears. I'm excited to see it.
Q, I want to ask you a quick question before we get into the specific players. Were you a Broderick Jones guy coming out of the draft?
So, I mean, I thought he was a first round talent, but and I still think that was a fair assessment. I did not he was clearly below Darnell Wright for me because there was just so much projection involved with him. He was such a physical specimen, but that Steve Sarkisian offense at Georgia was just so unprojectable to the NFL. What they were asking him to do was just he's going to be playing a completely different game in the NFL, a game that he's never had to play before because he was running out to block guys in space constantly or just run blocking. There was no in between. It was just either kill the guy in front of you or go kill that defensive back. And that were his 2 jobs, those were his 2 jobs. So I was I know there's going to be a lot of projection here. So I was mid to late first round pick makes sense. Top 10? No, I didn't think he belonged there.
Interesting. No, I'm just wondering because I just remember it's such a big talking point because the Bears obviously needed a tackle. Kind of seemed like it came down to 3 guys: Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones. And I just remember I was higher on Broderick Jones than I was Darnell Wright because I saw the athleticism and I was like, oh, this seems like something that could work really well in what the Bears offense at the time was going to ask of their tackle. Clearly I was wrong because Darnell Wright's been fantastic for the most part.
In that Luke Getsy offense, it made sense. Broderick Jones made sense for how much they asked their guys to get out in space and run and move constantly and be athletes. I had that from a pure talent standpoint. I had it. Paris Johnson was a clear tier above Darnell Wright, and Darnell Wright was a clear tier above Broderick Jones, but Jones was the 3rd for me.
Gotcha.
And Jones I probably had a higher ceiling on Jones. For grade wise, he could have I probably put Darnell Wright in a Pro Bowl ceiling and Broderick Jones in an all pro ceiling because the physical talent was undeniable.
Yeah.
But you guys ready to get to our first segment here?
Let's do it.
The baddest man.
All right, I'll toss this one over to Ron first. Who is the baddest man on the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I'll keep it short and sweet, gentlemen. We already talked about him. I don't care how old he is or how he's playing the position. The guy lives to kill the Bears. If he plays, Aaron Rodgers is by far and beyond the baddest man on the Steelers to the Chicago Bears. But if he doesn't play, I think there's a host of guys you could go at that spot. And I'm curious to hear from you guys what you think. But I'm going to just stick with the easy one. Until he's for sure ruled out, the former number 12, now number 8, scares the living shit out of me at quarterback.
I think that's a perfectly fair statement. I mean, if there's one game that I would expect Aaron Rodgers to play well in this year, it would be this game. We talked about playing before. He's going to get up for this one. But Brendan, where are you going for your baddest man on the Steelers?
I figured Ron was going to say that. I mean, it's too easy. He is the definition of just a bad man. This is tough. There's a lot of options here because you're right, Q. When you talked about this, the roster itself is stacked. I truly wonder how well they can play together sometimes. But when they gel, they're tough to beat. You know what? Just maybe prisoner of the moment. I don't care, but I've loved this guy's game ever since he came out of the draft, and the Steelers are using him crazy well right now. Darnell Washington is a bad man. And I know he's not, like, you can go elsewhere. There's all pros on this team, but if you go back and watch the Bengals game, the amount of stiff arms that Darnell Wright was throwing around and throwing guys left and right from that Bengals defense, who I acknowledge is not a very good defense, but getting him out in space, when you see that guy run with the ball, it is scary. It is bad. It is frightening. And I can just see a scenario where the Steelers pull some misdirection. They keep the back seven, further back off the ball, and they're able to utilize the tight ends in space. And for as good as Tremaine Edmonds is playing, he's bouncing off Darnell Washington. We talked about just the concerns elsewhere at linebacker with Noah Sewell, without TJ Edwards. Good luck with Jaquan Brisker trying to bring him down. I know he likes to talk a big game, and then just the utilization of him in the blocking game. He's so athletic. They use him so much when it comes to, getting up to the second level to create running lanes for Gainwell or Warren. I'm scared of this man, and just because of just how well he's playing right now. And I think the Steelers had a pretty good offensive game plan against a Bengals defense that, unfortunately, I don't want to say it doesn't mirror the Bears defense, because the Bears can take the ball away at a much higher rate, but they still give up a ton of yards and can get, have those sustained drives. And I think that's where you can get killed with some of these tight ends. So Darnell Wright is my bad man right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think from the pure definition of what we're saying, like a player after the game looking back at the field, like, I never want to see that man again in my life. I think Darnell Washington is a very easy pick for that. As far as, like, unless you're like a defensive lineman, might be the only ones who might not say him. Every other position on the defense is probably saying him, because no one wants to tackle this guy. Like, it is hard to bring him down. His contact balance is just outrageous for a guy who is listed 270. He's 300 pounds. Like, he's 300 pounds.
Shit, even DNs in the NFL nowadays aren't usually 6'7", 300. Yeah. He's an offensive tackle playing tight end.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's a mismatch for everybody. There's D tackles that don't want to try to go up against this guy. Yeah. He's just a physical freak that actually is athletic enough to play the position in space. And it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Now I have to think, and I'm sure every team in the NFL says this, but I have to think a big part of your game plan is going into this, just telling your defensive ends, like, I mean, Bears don't have a pass rush anyways, right? So it's like, whatever. You're just telling your defensive ends to smash this guy on the line of scrimmage every chance you get, right? Like, you're just saying, make him hurt, because that's our best chance to slow him down. Like, I say slow him down like he's like some massive presence statistically. He's not, but it's just like, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's just a runaway train. Like, he has 290 yards on the season, but it's just, when he has those moments, he's utterly unstoppable.
Yeah, he has 2 games of over 60 yards a game. So, I mean, I know that's not like a huge sample size and everything, but clearly there's the opportunity. And he had, I think, a season high 5 targets this past week. So it is matchup dependent. But I do think with how the Bears are right now, it presents itself in a good matchup for him.
Yeah. Now, man, for my baddest man, I think he's back this week. And part of this is matchup related, because I believe TJ Watt plays exclusively on the right against the right tackle. So I'm going to go Alex Highsmith. I think Alex Highsmith has been in TJ Watt's shadow for a long time without a ton of good reason. He's a very good pass rusher. And he, frankly, as far as the guys that Theo Benedict has seen on the left side, he might be the best he's seen all season. because he saw some Max Crosby on the right side, but that was only for like the first quarter of that game before Benedict moved to the left side. On the left side, I don't know that he's seen this caliber edge rusher before. And like, I think Alex Highsmith has game wrecking potential over there against Theo Benedict. So that's my pick. A part of me wanted to mention the secondary because, I mean, but like, their numbers here aren't great, but we're talking about a very veteran secondary who can do a lot of different things. I was looking at one of those coverage charts earlier today for where the Steelers are, and the Steelers are one of the most diverse coverage units in the NFL because Mike Tomlin has a veteran unit that knows how to play every coverage that he can possibly throw out there, and he's not afraid to change it up and be disguising things. Like Duggar and Peppers are both beautiful players to disguise with. They're so good at moving forwards from depth and getting to a spot where you didn't think they could get. And Ramsey is, I think, I'm not sure there's many guys that'd rather have it free safety in the NFL right now than Jalen Ramsey without having watched his all 22 much this year. But I mean, I have to believe it's there. Like it's been said for close to a decade now, when this guy can't play corner anymore, he's just going to kick back to safety and continue having a great career. And I think that's still the case. So I wanted to at least mention the secondary.
It's interesting because you go from one of the more diverse like fronts facing like a Brian Flores defense with what he can do up front versus just disguises in the back end the very next week against a defense that for a young quarterback, because Caleb doesn't put the ball in harm's way, hasn't had a multi-interception game in well over a year. So you do wonder with that, like how they can maybe, lure him into like a false sense of security, create some things that he hasn't seen before. I mean, that's definitely going to be on Ben Johnson to make sure that they're prepared enough for anything they throw. That's a really good point, Q. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are right there with the Bears for takeaways this year, I believe. They're one of the top takeaway defenses in the NFL, despite not being one of the more sound unit, like kind of similar to the Bears, where they've given up a lot of yards and they haven't exactly been like that sound overall, but they've just been able to generate takeaways at an extremely high level. But let's go ahead and get to the Bears for you guys. So starting with Brendan on this one, who is your baddest man on the Bears this week?
Let's see. I actually didn't do much better. I was so focused on the Steelers. I was thinking a little bit about this one. You know what? I think this is going to be. I'm just going to go Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a different guy at home, guys. I mean, his home road splits are pretty significant, I would say. The guy, kind of like what you said with Ben Johnson getting juiced up at home. I think Caleb just relishes playing in front of the home fans, and he's really bought into the Iceman nickname and just, being Captain Comeback, knowing that when he gets the ball in his hands, when time is running out, he can make magic happen. And I just think now over the last few weeks, that's culminated into a guy that just has no fear. And I know he didn't have his best game against the Vikings defense. We know Brian Flores threw the kitchen sink at him, and he still, was able to keep the ball out of harm's way, only took 2 sacks. If that's a bad game for Caleb Williams now, I mean, shoot, the bar is at a much higher level than it's been over the last, year or so. So look, I just think, maybe he's not like the best quarterback for this matchup with some of those disguises and, potential takeaways that the Steelers can create. But I'm just a big believer in him playing at home and getting up for this game, especially like with momentum. I think Caleb is a big momentum guy. And as they keep stacking wins, I think he just finds a way to elevate his play. So, I'm just going to go Caleb for this one.
I like that. Ron, where are you thinking?
I'm staying on the offensive side of the football, gentlemen, but I'm thinking about this game from a little different perspective. Because to complement Brendan's pick of Caleb Williams, there's very few defensive ends, edge rushers, linebackers, however you define them given your defense, that scare me no matter how good your quarterback is at escaping than TJ Watt. He's still that dude. Darnell Wright's going to have his hands full. And I think, big brain theory, the Bears are one of the teams in the NFL that are ahead of schedule because a lot of teams like to rush their best pass rusher against the right tackle. Having Darnell Wright makes a huge difference right now for the Chicago Bears. Penei Sewell's having that kind of difference in Detroit. You can nullify a lot of elite pass rushers with a really good right tackle. So because of that, Darnell Wright is my baddest man. The big teddy bear that looks like Jonah Jackson's younger clone at times is just spectacular. We've seen it all season. Even his worst games, Q, as we've broken down on the O-line shows, are still Pro Bowl level caliber games with a couple of mistakes. He's going to be such a difference maker because if Caleb Williams only has to worry about Hi Smith and some of those other guys on the D line and not TJ Watt, I think Caleb Williams gets up at home and balls out against this aging Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But you got to protect the Iceman is not totally invincible. Ice can be broken, but Darnell Wright certainly takes load off of that concern.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. And I think Darnell Wright, needs, especially if I do have worries about Alex Highsmith on the other side, you got to lock up one side, so if Theo has been kind of a weak link on the left side, means Wright's probably going a little unnoticed for how good he's been, because when pressure's coming from both sides, it's really hard to deal with that. Now for me, I'm going with Tyreek Stevenson. I'm assuming that he's going to play.
Ooh.
Because for the Bears to win, I think he needs to be a bad man. The Steelers just spam the DK Metcalf button in their pass game. They do. Like it's short stuff, or is DK going? Does he have single? Are we just going to toss this one up to DK? They have no problem tossing it up to DK. I have him in one fantasy league, and his numbers have been pretty dang solid because of it. He's also drawn a lot of pass interference penalties this year because DK fits the rest of that Steelers team of I'm a big bully and I can just do stuff that others can't. He's never really been in that elite receiver conversation, but he can just do like that downfield receiving game so well. Brendan, I'm sure you could talk at more depth of that, but to me, Tyreek needs to shut him down. Tyreek needs to take that away in this game for the Bears to win. So I need Tyreek Stevenson to be the baddest man on the field Sunday for the Bears to win this game.
That's great. I actually wonder. I think Tyreek's a decent matchup for him. I kind of think Nashawn Wright might actually be an okay matchup for this guy, just with how big he is, how physical he can be, how he can kind of go step. He does get beat sometimes. I mean, we clearly saw that. The Jordan Addison mismatch was atrocious, just because that's not Nashawn Wright's game. DK Metcalf he's big, fast. When he gets a full head of steam, it is hard to beat him. But at the same time, I think with bigger cornerbacks, you can kind of push him off his game a little bit. And, he's not the best. I don't think he's the best recovery receiver, just because of the limitations that he has and, his breakdowns and change of direction. So I think Tyreek fits that as well. But I kind of wonder, not that it's going to be a really great matchup where, Deshaun Wright's going to shut him down, because he can't. That's just not the type of player he is. But I think he could take advantage of maybe some missed balls or, just with his length and physicality against DK.
That's a good point too, because you're right. I feel like where Nashawn Wright really struggles, and where Tyreek Stevenson struggles some too, is against the route runners, against the guys who can get them in a position where those receivers can capitalize on it. And I don't think that's DK. DK just wants to beat you with straight burner speed and physicality, right? Off the line. He's not really beating you on a lot of double moves, on a lot of fine technical route running, where I think either of these corners have a chance against him. But I think Tyreek is the more physical guy, and I need him to bring that physicality at the line of scrimmage.
Definitely.
I also wonder, gentlemen, just really quick, because I think this is kind of a fascinating topic. You can also probably place Wright against Metcalf with Byard over the top. And then your head-up matchups with Tyreek, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the slot against these bigger tight ends, and with somebody like Edmonds as well in that position, right? And I wonder, like, how much does that then allow Dennis Allen to maybe send Noah Sewell on a blitz, or, get Austin Booker in positions to take advantage of getting after Aaron Rodgers? It's going to be a really fascinating matchup game, I think, with some of those skill positions, arguably on both sides of the ball, but certainly the Bears defense versus the Steelers offense, just because of the physical traits that you guys have discussed.
How much do we think CJ Gardner-Johnson can even play in this game?
Hopefully a little bit.
I'm just thinking from the personnel standpoint, if the Steelers are in a bunch of 12 and 13, you're going to start running 3 linebackers out there. If Edwards isn't back, I'm not even sure who the Bears is. It Amen Ogbongbemiga or like
Ogbongbemiga?
I hope I even said
Hippolyte?
that.
No, you did. Is
Hippolyte?
it? I mean, Yeah, the options aren't great, man. You're right. And
Bears did just sign Bears did just sign the new linebacker today at the practice squad. Yeah.
That could be
I wonder what that means, because Sewell left the game, but he came back, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a really fascinating question, guys, because I think that's something that, first off, with Ron's situation, I think you can definitely do something like that. And assuming that the Steelers are going to continue to play that 12 and 13 personnel, I'm not sure. I'm sure we're not going to take any of these guys, but then you start getting into, well, what's Kelvin Austin's role? What's Roman Wilson's role? Because both those guys they can beat coverages. They're fast. They're deep threats. They don't use them often, but there are chances that they could take that where they can get behind the Bears defense. And then if you're just focused on all these tight ends, DK, you're then leaving one-on-one coverage with a burner like that. You open yourself up to a big play. The Bears have not given up that many big plays this year. So I'm getting excited about the matchup opportunities. Like from a football, like just standpoint, taking out the rooting interest, it's going to be really fascinating.
Yeah, it will be. But you guys ready to get to our next segment here?
Let's get it.
Yep.
The nicest man.
All right, kicking it over to Brendan. Who is your nicest man for the Chicago Bears this week?
Oh, for the Chicago Bears. I want to take Theo, but I feel like you're going to take Theo, and you're
can go for
better at that. I'm gonna take Theo. It's just, and you can speak to it better than I can, but the guy's really struggling right now. I know it's hard with the Brian Flores defense. He didn't face this defense in week 1, but it just feels like he's kind of hit that wall a little bit, and you can call it a rookie wall because it's not technically, but it's basically his rookie season. But it just feels like he's kind of plateaued, and he's just not playing well enough. I mean, playing next to Tooney has helped, but he's just getting beat constantly. I'm not going to get into the technical standpoint because you could speak better, but I just do not like what I see from Theo Bennett right now. It sucks because I don't know. You kind of you wonder like, well, is at this point, would Ozzie Trillo be the same player? Could he do better after like having practices to continue to learn the left side better? I mean, it kind of seems crazy to me that the Bears would try this experiment in training camp. It kind of let it go up until, throughout the regular season and not even try him at left tackle aside for one play when he gets hurt. And obviously Braxton Jones, I think he's eligible to come off IR this week. You're not going to start him, but I'm just wondering, is this good enough with Theo Bennett, especially going against Alex Highsmith, where you can feel confident that, it's not going to disrupt the Bears offense too much. And frankly, I don't. I'm worried about the matchup, and he's not playing good enough ball right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bennett is a pretty clear choice here, and what I think keeps Bennett in the lineup is one, he is such a willing and tenacious run blocker.
Yeah,
He's not even that sound at it all the time, but like he just goes 110 miles an hour at all times with it. So like there's just like a attitude that comes with that and a wearing down the defense. But the other thing that I think has kept him in is Theo doesn't lose cleanly that often. And what I mean by that is he always gets hands on the defender. And he always has secondary and tertiary efforts that are helping the play. So it's almost a gamble of like, we know Caleb can make the first one miss. And we know Theo's going to clean it up after that. So it's just trying to scheme around that as opposed to the risky run with Ozzie is, in my opinion, playing aside that he's clearly a little slower at, is clean losses where he can't even touch the defender. Because I think that's a lot harder to mitigate within the offense than it is, Theo's at least getting his hands on the guy. It might be too deep in the pocket. He might not, and he can anchor, but like he's just, even if he ends up on top of Caleb, he's still got his hands on the guy and at least has a degree of control. So I think that's why he's still in there. Is that better than what Ozzie can do? I think only the Bears coaches can answer that. But like, I do think that is what has kept him in. And Ron, what do you think?
I'm almost wondering, like, to me, he's the better version of what like Dan Skipper was in Detroit. Like a really good sixth lineman if he's your sixth guy on the roster. But when you need him to start, he absolutely can get the job done. Yeah, maybe he's not the most physically, perfect and all that at the tackle spot, right? We talk about the lack of length out of Benedict. But Q, I think you explained it perfectly. He gets hands on people and he's physical and he's nasty. And I think that just fits what Ben Johnson wants from his offensive lineman. And even if he's a guy who isn't as physically gifted as Darnell Wright or as sound as these three veterans they have in the middle, they're able to get away with it because at least Benedict plays 110%, like you said, Q. And I think in this offense, that's all that Ben Johnson needs him to do to be effective.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think that it's a clear pick for nicest man for the Bears almost any given week, but especially against this Steelers D line. Ron, where are you going for your nicest man?
I don't even feel good about this pick. I don't like doing this, but I think this is DJ Moore's week to be the nicest man. I wonder if he's able to get enough opportunities given his skill set and just the type of player he is against this type of defense. I think Colston Loveland's a better matchup this week. Maybe Luther Burden with that real take the top off speed against, some older DBs. I hope DJ Moore proves me wrong, but this feels like the game where if DJ Moore was largely ineffective against the Vikings, let alone against, in my opinion, a defense with probably overall better athletes and maybe just better players at their given positions based on IQ and things like that. I think he could really struggle against the Steelers this week. So I'm gonna go ahead with number 2. I hope he proves me wrong, but that's where my heart's telling me to go.
Ron, I'll raise you to the outside receivers in general. Like, and I almost see this pick as more of like a challenge to them, right? Like, they're gonna get Steelers cornerbacks are gonna get physical with them. I'm not worried about Burden in the slot. He'll be or like any of them in the slot, really. I think they'll be okay there. But it's on the outside against Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay, where I think those guys are going to be getting in their heads. They're going to be roughing them up at the line of scrimmage and getting them off their spots. I need them to prevent that. I need them to fight back against that. And so I'm just going the outside receivers in general for my nicest man pick as a challenge to them. I want to see them rise to the occasion and be the attackers, not the attackees.
Well said.
But let's go ahead and get to the Steelers here. Starting with Ron, who's your nicest man on the Steelers for this week?
Oh, my nicest man. I don't even know. You know what? I'm going to be petty, gentlemen, just because I can be. I think the Steelers football team is a good football team. I really do. So I'm going to go ahead and use personal allegiances to pick somebody out. I think Roman Wilson is the nicest man on the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's a Michigan wide receiver. and I root for the Ohio State, and I just didn't think he was a very good receiver to begin with. But I have friends that are Michigan fans that are going to tell me otherwise. For that reason, he's my pick. I think Tyreek could shut him down. I think Nishan Wright could shut him down. And for that reason, I think everybody else is more effective on this team than he is, including the guys behind him on the depth chart, as were mentioned by you, Brendan, and Calvin Austin. Roman Wilson, Michigan Wolverine, nicest man.
And Roman Wilson is just like, he just outsnapped Calvin Austin last week for the first time all year. He's only started 2 games all year, but it seems like, Grant, I picked up Roman Wilson in a few really deep fantasy leagues. So I was like, this is Aaron Rodgers kind of guy. Like, this is the guy that Aaron Rodgers is going to find and make good. I liked him coming out of Michigan, but he's a slot receiver in an offense that doesn't use a slot receiver. So it's kind of an odd fit. So I get where you're going with there. Brendan, where are you going for your nicest man?
I'm going to do something similar to what Ron just did, only for a different reason. My favorite football team in college is Notre Dame. But my second favorite college football team is the Iowa Hawkeyes. And guys, I was pounding the table for the Bears to draft Caleb Johnson. I thought he was going to be such a good player. He would fit in with his outside. I thought, even though like with Ben Johnson running maybe a slightly different scheme, the outside zones that he could run, I thought he would be like a good pro. Maybe not the best back in the draft, obviously, but like a good back that you could depend on as like a 3-down back. I did not see him having only 58 rushing yards all season on just falling completely behind to, Jalen Warren's a good back, but Kenneth Gainwell just becoming the clear number 2. He couldn't play special teams. He drops passes that come at his way. He just doesn't know his assignments. And the reason I'm bringing them out here as like a RB3 right now is because Jalen Warren may not play. And so you may actually see significant snaps from Caleb Johnson this week against the Bears. And just for a guy that was billed as, maybe like a fringe 1st-round pick, early 2nd-round pick, he's just done nothing. And it's hilarious to me that for somebody I pounded the table for, to see a guy like Kyle Monangai just run circles around him with production is hilarious. So Caleb Johnson, I love you. I thank you for the work that you did for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And right now you're just a nice man, even though you're wearing the exact same freaking colors. Should translate in the NFL if you wear gold and black to gold and black. I can't believe this is the same guy that led the Big Ten in rushing.
Yeah, I think even the Caleb Johnson detractors in the draft did not imagine it going the way that it has this season. It felt like he was more of a, even for people who didn't like him, more of a high floor, low ceiling guy than a guy who's just not seeing the field.
Yeah. Q, I'll give you that side of the argument. I was a very downer on Caleb Johnson coming out. I thought he was soft as a running back. That was kind of just my take on him. I just didn't think he fought through contact well. I didn't think it would be this bad though. I got him in one fantasy draft because I was just, you know what? I'm just going to take a shot because it's a dynasty league. We'll see what happens. He's already been traded off my roster. I didn't think it would be this bad. So I think that's a good pick, Brendan. And I'm sorry. I know it's hard when there's an allegiance there and a guy just doesn't do what you were hoping he would do. I get it. I've been on that side of the pendulum a few times.
It could be worse. I like that you said that. Very quick story. One of my very good friends, big Iowa Hawkeye fan, he was in a dynasty league and he was drafting for rookies. He had 3rd pick, and again, big Hawkeye fan. And he's like, I kind of really like Caleb Johnson. What do you think? Do you think he's going to see a lot of snaps for the Steelers? I'm like, he should, but I'm like, at number 3 in that draft, when you have guys like Ted McMillan and just a ton of other receivers, we know Ashton Genty's going 1. I forget who went 2. He told me he ended up picking Caleb Johnson at 3. And I just think of that every now and again. And I'm like, you poor son of a bitch, man. Why would you do that? And I should ask him how he's feeling about that. I haven't talked to him about that specifically in a bit. I should, yeah.
Please do. I will say, in most dynasty drafts that I had, it was always Genty and then Hampton. And
Yes.
Caleb to go 3 is pretty crazy. I won't lie.
All right. So for my nicest man, I mean, as you guys made your cases, I was like, oh, what can I do from the college aspect? And I don't see a single Red Raider out here, so I can't go my favorite college team. And I only see one Big 12 player, and that's Zach Frazier. And Zach Frazier is certainly not a nice man. So I can't play the college game. I'm going with my original pick. I'm going with Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen had an awesome 1 year out of his 4 years, or maybe 4 or 5 years in Baltimore. The 1 year he played next to Roquan Smith, he was awesome. Got paid for it. Didn't live up to it again because he's not that guy at linebacker. And I think he's a guy you can get with. You can get with the play action. You can get him coming too hard downhill. You can get mismatches on him in coverage. I think Patrick Queen is a guy that you can attack, and it's a guy I expect the Bears to attack.
Hell yeah.
I almost had him, so that's a good pick. He did play better against the Bengals.
I don't doubt it. I think he's just one of the only names you can really pick outside of like the guys that you already mentioned. I mean, there's just not a lot of this roster where you go like, oh, that's a weak spot, right? Like they are very solid across the board. But why don't we go ahead and get to our final segment here before we close this thing out?
Keys to victory.
All right, tossing it over to Brendan first. What is a key to victory for the Bears in this game?
All right, well, I'm going to use this as actually a secondary baddest man for the Bears because I feel like I should have said this guy initially. I think getting the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands is going to be very important. And I know I'm just referencing the Bengals game, but the work that Chase Brown was able to do against that Steeler defense, both in the run game and the passing game. Chase Brown has not had a good season. And I think that with how the Bears are running the ball and what they can do in the passing game with the short, intermediary passes, especially with the pass rush that they have, I think Swift, being that kind of catalyst for moving the ball both on the ground and through the air is going to be important for the Bears to kind of keep things going. The other thing, it's just, you guys mentioned it, just the better receiver play. We have got to see the Bears be able to bring balls in and confidently. I don't know what is going on right now with this group because we're talking now for the last 3 to 4 weeks where either there's drops, guys maybe don't know where they're going, missed balls. It's kind of like just it's not firing on all cylinders like it should be. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a thinking too much about pre-snap and trying to know the spots you're needing to go to. But it's gotten to the point where these receivers are thinking about catching the ball too much that they're not being able to catch the ball. I'm seeing way too many body catches. I'm seeing just, maybe some hesitancy on where to go and just picking their spots. Whatever Antoine Randall needs to do to get in these guys' heads, I don't know. I don't care if it's unorthodox drills. I don't care if it's just, running out, turning around, catching the ball, not thinking about where you're going. Because I've been there where it's it's second nature. And then the drops start building up. And all of a sudden you're thinking about that next play. I can't screw this up. And sure enough, you end up screwing it up. You're thinking about where you need to be. And, the ball just, for one reason or another, reacting is so much better than thinking when you're trying to catch a football. So I need enough is enough. I'm so sick of just the constant drops over the last few weeks. Find a way to catch the freaking ball and keep drives moving because it's really against a veteran team like the Steelers. I think you can get away with that with the Giants and the Vikings. We keep saying it, the whole, come from behind thing is not sustainable. So far, it has been sustainable, but it is eventually going to come back to you. That's a big way to dig yourself out of that hole to keep drives moving. So those are my keys there. And then I would say just what we talked about earlier, just be ready for a physical game on defense. Watch the tight ends, keep everything in front. Well, I should say keep everything in front of you, but just be aware of those short dink and dunk passes, and just be ready for keeping players near the line of scrimmage, because that's been the Steelers' game plan for most of the year when it comes to running back screens, tight ends, and then obviously they'll try to take the deep shot from time to time. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling.
Ron, where are you going for your keys?
I'm looking at one place in this game that really draws my attention, and it's in the trenches, baby, on both sides of the ball. I think this Pittsburgh offensive line is going to be tested, at least physically, by the Bears defensive line, but the Bears are going to have to generate some kind of pass rush. I think that's going to be critically important in this game. In addition to that, I think the Bears' O-line has a hell of a matchup against the Pittsburgh defensive line. That's where this one really sits for me. Can these veterans in the middle, can Darnell Wright continue his excellence, and can they mitigate Highsmith on the other side? Of course, they're going to use Durham Smythe. They're going to use Colston Loveland. They're going to use Cole Kmet. And just keep this D-line off of Caleb long enough for him to work his magic. Because I think the rest of this team has enough to make big plays. Loveland, the outside guys burning over the top. That's going to be critically important in this game. So for that reason, you got to win in the trenches, man. Got to win in the trenches. And whichever team does, I think firmly wins this game, because it's going to be a November Sunday in Chicago. It's not going to be the greatest of weather. You're playing in grass. It's been cold. It's been wet. It's just going to be a slugfest at Soldier Field. And whoever's able to dominate in the trenches is going to dominate on the scoreboard as well.
Yeah, and I think mine is along a similar line to what both you guys already mentioned, but I feel like we got a few in there, so I'm just going to follow that trend a little bit. Almost every game the Bears have played this year, they've been the more physical team. Almost every single game. The only one that stands out to me that probably wasn't was Detroit week 2, and maybe Baltimore. Baltimore was
I would say Baltimore.
But outside of those two games, the Bears have been the more physical team week in, week out. AFC North is a physical division. We already saw it with Baltimore. Their standard of physicality is higher than the rest of the NFL, and the Steelers they set that standard. So this is a game where the Bears need to come out punching in the mouth. Everything needs to be as physical as possible. And I mean, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a slugfest. It's not going to be a pretty game. It's not going to be the most fun game to watch a Sunday, but it might be the most physical game on Sunday, and the Bears need to be the more physical football team. But let's get to just a few of these comments before we close this out. We have Melon Smasher mentioning here that the Bears are 12-1 versus the Steelers at Soldier Field historically. And then we have KO Kingdom here asking, do we think that the Bears get Johnson, Edwards, or Gordon back? What do you guys think on this one?
I think Johnson really does want to play. I mean, he's been, back at practice. List him questionable. I think the Bears, and I'm just guessing here, I put this out on Twitter earlier in the day. I believe the Bears are going to hold out Johnson and possibly Gordon until the Eagles game on Black Friday, because not only do you give them an extra week, but you also have an extended break on the back end to recover. And I think the Bears are going to try to play this smart, because now you're not just thinking about, December games, you're thinking about January games. And we've already seen both of these guys get re-injured coming back, whether it's too soon or re-aggravate things. So they're going to play it safer, bring him back on Friday, and then they get, 2 extra days to then get ready for that stretch run and hopefully be healthy for the rest of the season. I'm not sure about Edwards. I truly don't know. Yeah.
Ron, any thoughts?
I completely agree. I don't think any of those guys play. Genuinely. I think what you saw against the Vikings is pretty similar to what you're going to see here against the Steelers this weekend. And they just got to be like you said, Q, I think putting that perfectly. They got to be the more physical team, even on the defensive side of the football, especially. I think that's why CJ Gardner-Johnson has to have an impact in this game. They need his physicality, I think, more than anything else in the secondary to really potentially change the outcomes of this game. So it's going to be fascinating to see. But I just don't think – I think you'll see those guys in the Eagles game. Brendan, I think you laid it out perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Edwards, but like I don't think Jalen, I don't think has a chance this week. We're talking about how physical we expect this game to be. I don't think that's the game we bring back Jalen and Gordon along the similar lines. I don't really see why you would bring either of them back to protect. Like I would expect them to get injured again in this game if they came back for this game. But gentlemen, Brendan, first of all, why don't you remind everyone where they can find your work?
Yeah, you can check me out on Bears Wire, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group, and you can check me out on Twitter at Brendan Sugrue. That's Sugrue.
All right, and guys, why don't we get out of here with a good old bear down, and then we will talk to everyone again next week.
Bear down, baby.
Bear down. Let's go.
Bear down.